Let's straight away take you to the story which has dominated our mind space now for the last few hours. A comment which has overtaken the serious issue which had been debated extensively over the last 1 week, the rape of a 23-year-old girl in the National Capital Region. There was outrage and shock today after none less than Abhijit Mukherjee, who happens to be the son of our president, Pranab Mukherjee, who happens to be a member of parliament from Jangipur in West Bengal, that Abhijit Mukherjee called women protesters at India Gate and in other parts of the country as dented and painted women.
That's right. He didn't stop at that. He also added that the protesters, many of whom blamed lathi charge and water cannons, were simply out of touch with reality. The statement shocked social activists and politicians, but also importantly his sister, Sharmishta, who was the first one to tender an apology on his behalf.
None other than the son of the President of the Republic, expressing a mindset of an India that still can't come to terms with modern young women.
What's happening in Delhi is like Pink Revolution in Egypt. They are not in touch with ground reality at all. Women protesters go to discotheques and then hold candlelight protests. I have also been a student. I know what students are like. Those women, those very beautiful women, highly dented and painted, giving interviews, are not students.
When asked if he had not insulted the thousands who had braved water cannons, lathi charge and tear gas, Abhijit Mukherjee offered only a half-hearted apology.
I withdraw and apologize to all the persons who got hurt by this statement or other sentences. I have no more explanation I am giving.
Abhijit's sister, Sharmishta, apologized more profusely and said the entire family was embarrassed by her brother's comments.
उनकी behalf में मैं सबसे apologize करती हूँ कि उन्होंने ऐसा गलत बोला है. I mean, क्योंकि मैं उसको बचपन से जानती हूँ और हमारा family values ऐसा नहीं है.
On the streets, citizens who had once again come to march for women's safety in solidarity with the gang rape survivor expressed their contempt for Mukherjee's comments.
He has to come out and see us. I mean, this is not about being dented or painted. He isn't listening to what the young women on the street are saying. They are saying, don't teach us how to dress. Don't teach us not to go to discotheques.
Social activists and politicians said they simply could not believe that an educated MP could speak in this way about protests that had moved the entire nation.
This is insulting to women. This is absolutely a lewd remark. A people's representative is not a street urchin to talk like that.
He comes from a state, Bengal, where this kind of statement will not be tolerated for a single minute.
When educated people in powerful positions voice attitudes that smack of bias and prejudice against women, once again we're reminded that unless the mentality towards modern women is urgently changed, crimes against women will not end. With Sagrika Ghosh in New Delhi, Anna Verghese.
Now, we spoke to Abhijit Mukherjee earlier in the day. His apology at that time remained half-hearted, even as he maintained his comment was taken out of context.
Should you say that these are highly denting, painting women who are coming out with candlelight?
Madam, I repeat, whom I saw, she never looked like a student. She was giving an interview over one of the TV channels. Whom I saw, my comment is based on that. A, B, I was asked about the student movement. It was not a student movement, what I felt. What I felt, I told. If it is hurt anyone, I withdraw my student, I apologize, that's all.
But you apologize for that statement? Are you saying you apologize for that statement?
No, I am not the statement. I am apologize if somebody's sentiment has in the heart.
But on the other hand, his sister and the president's daughter has apologized profusely. Sharmishta Mukherjee says that she was indeed embarrassed by her brother's statement and said that these were not the values with which they had been brought up by their parents.
मैं शॉक्ड हूँ ना, क्योंकि मैं बचपन से जानती हूँ उनको, तो इसलिए मुझे नहीं पता कि उन्होंने ऐसा क्यों बोला है और किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बोला है, लेकिन जो भी उन्होंने बोला है वो सही नहीं बोला है. और उनकी बिहाफ में मैं सबसे अपोलोजाइज करती हूँ कि उन्होंने ऐसा गलत बोला है. आई मीन, क्योंकि मैं उसको बचपन से जानती हूँ और हमारा फैमिली वैल्यूज ऐसा नहीं है. वो स्टूडेंट्स हो नहीं हो उससे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. एक 80 साल के इंसान का भी पूरा हक है कि वो प्रोटेस्ट करे. तो इसलिए वो स्टूडेंट्स हैं या नहीं है उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है. और पहले भी मैंने बोला है इंटरव्यू में और मेरा फादर ने भी बोला है कि ये जो डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन है इसके पीछे ये जो एंगर है, इट्स कम्प्लीटली अंडरस्टैंडेबल एंड इट्स कम्प्लीटली जस्टिफाइड.
Now, all through the day, there has been condemnation of the statement that was made by Abhijit Mukherjee. The Congress too has distanced itself from Mr. Mukherjee. Sagrika Ghosh once again spoke to Abhijit Mukherjee. This time, the apology was more open and clear-cut.
Mr. Abhijit Mukherjee, your sister has profusely apologized on your behalf. She has said that she is very, very deeply apologetic about what you have said. How would you like to respond to that profuse apology that your sister has given on behalf of your entire family?
My sister's reaction is quite natural. She didn't know, like many others, viewers, they didn't also know the backdrop of that statement. It is pick and choose kind of thing. Anyway, since it has created a lot of outrages, and what I felt that it has also created hard sentiments of a lot of people, particularly the women folk, across this cross-section of the society, right from student to working class. So they felt hurt. I sincerely apologize to them. I withdraw all these words, sentences, which has created such uproar and outrageous reaction. I withdraw and apologize to all the persons who got hurt by this statement or other sentences. And no more explanation I am giving. No more explanation I have been giving. Tons of explanation also not clear the doubts of people's mind. Statements or other conversations in between portion has been highlighted. Anyway, since that has created, again I repeat, that has created that so much of controversy, I withdraw those sentences, those words, as well as I apologize to all the persons who got hurt by this.
You withdraw all that you have said and you apologize to all who have been hurt. But is your apology enough, Mr. Mukherjee? Haven't you brought discredit to the high office of the president? You are the president's son. Haven't you embarrassed and discredited none other than the president of India?
I am not working in president's office. A. I am an individual. I don't think so. I don't think it is appropriate to bring that honorable president in here. A. B. Obviously what I heard from others, since I was traveling, I was unable to watch any TV. And he has regretted. And since I have withdrawn, and I regretted again. So because of my actions, he also got hurt. My sister also got hurt. So these apologies to them also. I don't think so that it is appropriate to bring the honorable president or honorable president's office in this controversy.
You don't want to bring the president into this controversy, but many would say that you have done precisely that. Would you like to tender a public apology to your father?
Madam, I have replied to my earlier question that because of this statement, my father also got hurt, and I sincerely apologize to him also, to my sisters also. And that is, I withdraw that statements also. I think no controversy should be now after that and dragging the honorable president's office. Yes, incidentally, I am his son. I am his son, but because of me, I think one should not drag the office or this office of this honorable president.
One should not drag the office of the honorable president, but it is you who has done that. It is you who, being the president's son, has said women who are protesting are dented and painted. Do you want your father to come out and apologize on your behalf? There are demands that your father, as your father, as the president, should come out and in fact apologize on your behalf. Do you want your father to do that?
I am responsible for my action, not my father. Once I have apologized, if somebody propagates this more, I think takes it further more, then what is next? Then what is next? So I am putting back this question to you and to the viewers. I am responsible for my action, my uttering, not my father, not any further family members, not even party members.
Mr. Mukherjee, you've done a complete U-turn from your statements. You have retracted them. You've apologized for them. Do you feel that as a man, as an educated citizen of India, you should do some introspection about your attitudes towards women?
I don't think so. That it is people's prerogative. It is prerogative to force me to do introspection. I know what has been told, and that has created a lot of furor, and that is why I have withdrawn. That's the first step of introspection. I have no right to hurt others. Neither others also have the right to insult my father, the office of the president, because incidentally I am his son, he should come and apologize. Then what next? What next? I am responsible for my actions, for my utterings, which I felt it has hurt lots of sentiments of a lot of people. So I apologized and withdrawn. Then repeatedly, why same question is being asked?
You keep saying, what next, what next? It's almost as if we can ask you that question. What next? What are you going to say next that might possibly embarrass your father? You spoke about how women dress, dented, painted women who were there at the protest. Do you feel that women should abide by a certain dress code? Do you think that crimes against women are rising because women dress and look in a certain way, that women should abide by a certain dress code? Is that what you feel?
No, it's the prerogative of the women to wear the kind of dresses they want. A. B. It is the prerogative, not the prerogative, responsibility of the administration and the government to protect them. Each and every citizen, whatever, even they go at say midnight, even say go in the early morning, or even this thing, it's a responsibility of the society in general and the government to protect each and every citizen, including women. What they'll wear, where they'll go, at what time they'll go, is none of my business.
It's indeed none of your business, Mr. Mukherjee. One wishes this is what you had said at the very beginning instead of making those utterly disparaging remarks about dented, painted women who were out on the streets. You've done something of a U-turn now in this particular interview that you're giving us. Do you feel that men across the board, educated men, not so educated men, should all introspect and turn inward and think about the kind of attitudes they have towards modern women?
I can comment only on me, not others. I can control only myself, nobody else. So with that backdrop, I never knew that it will create such, because that whole intention was not to hurt anyone's sentiment. It was being described certain things, and in between certain sentences, certain words has been picked up and being highlighted and all this controversy. My intention is not to create any controversy and not to hurt anyone. Since people's sentiment got hurt, I am repeatedly saying and repeatedly replying to other media channels also, same thing. Since I have withdrawn, and if you say U-turn, it's a U-turn, it's your prerogative to your prerogative to mention or say think, and others to think. If I felt that my statement has created such furor, such unprecedented halla-gulla, I am responsible for that, and being a responsible person, I withdraw and apologize.
You are responsible for your statements and you have apologized, but you have embarrassed your father, you've embarrassed the President of India, and you've also, many would say, embarrassed the Congress party. Are you willing to relinquish your office? Are you willing to resign? If the party desires you to resign from your office, resign as MP, are you willing to do that?
If people from my constituency and my party high command demands, I'll do that.
So you're saying you're ready to quit? If your party believes you should quit, you're ready to quit?
Whatever these actions and high command will ask me to do, I'll do that. If they ask for resignation, definitely I'll do that. And being a law-abiding citizen and say one of the Sipahi of the party, for my action, party should not be embarrassed. If party fails, if high command fails or anybody is responsible person feels that quitting this position will help the party, definitely I'll do that.
If anyone in the party feels that quitting this position will help the party, you are ready to do that. That was Abhijit Mukherjee joining us. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Well, now I'll leave it up to you to decide what you make out of this explanation which is being offered by the president's son. Now, amidst all this, the condition of the 23-year-old rape survivor still continues to remain critical.
That's right. Remember, she's being treated at the Mount Elizabeth Hospital in Singapore, where she was admitted yesterday. The hospital has now released a statement. It says the condition of the rape survivor is extremely critical. I'm quoting the hospital now. The condition of the patient remains extremely critical. Before she was admitted to our hospital, she had undergone 3 abdominal surgeries and had experienced a cardiac arrest in India. A multidisciplinary team of doctors is taking care of her, unquote. Now, Neeja Jaitley is a journalist who's looking at this situation from Singapore. She's keeping an eye. Neeja, I do believe patient confidentiality means that a lot of the details are not going to be made public. But just keeping in mind the huge concern that people have here back home, I do believe the Indian High Commission in Singapore is now accepting messages for the girl and, of course, her parents who are with her.
Her parents are with her. But even the High Commission is not issuing any statement. There's a lot of interest. Women here are as agitated Indians, and there are quite a big Indian community out here. We are following every single word which is coming out on the Indian television out there in New Delhi. But, you know, for some reason there is not, and it is very frustrating when even they cite patients' confidentiality as one of the reasons. I mean, this is a case where the whole country is involved, whole of India is involved. There is so much, I wouldn't say curiosity, but people really have so much sympathy for her. They want to know what her condition is like. They are waiting for something to come out from either the High Commission or the hospital authorities. But in 12 hours, they have just issued 2 statements, one in the morning to the local channel and one in the evening. We would appreciate if they gave us more information ourselves. But from whatever one is speaking to doctors, her condition is extremely, extremely serious.
So then on one hand, we're still looking at the condition of that poor girl who was brutally gang raped on the streets of Delhi. And on the other, you have the president's son, who himself has come up with his own view on the protests which have taken place, not just in the capital, but across the entire country over the last 1 week. The big question which then arises, is Abhijit Mukherjee, President Pranab Mukherjee's son, a symbol of deep-rooted prejudices which exist against women in our country? Is he, Abhijit Mukherjee, will the president's son, will his comments end up hurting the image of the Congress party? The Congress which likes to position himself as the party of Aam Aadmi, will these comments end up hurting the Congress's image or not? Should Abhijit Mukherjee be suspended from the Congress party because of these comments that he has made against dented and painted women? And is the political class completely oblivious of the anger which exists today within the minds of many women, not just in Delhi, but across the country?
Okay, let's take you straight to our talking point here on India at 9. It's our first debate. We're looking at perhaps whether this outrage can change mindsets. Let me introduce our full panel. In a moment, we'll be joined by Dr. Ranjana Kumari. She's the Director, Center for Social Research from the capital. I'm being joined by Nalini Singh, a senior journalist. There's T.R. Kakkar, former police commissioner of Delhi, and Madhu Kishwar, who's joining us here, the editor of Manushri. Thanks very much to all of you. Let me start with you, Madhu. You know, the political lexicon, or so to speak, our political lexicon has a long list of examples of comments that are extremely regressive, that are anti-women. Does this particular comment by Abhijit surprise you at all? Because I'm sure there are a whole lot of men who are watching this program and will watch you and would agree with Mr. Mukherjee.
I'm not sure that many men in his position wouldn't know how to guard their tongue. I think that's what's so shocking. It's not just he as an MP who's speaking. He has to remain aware that he's the president's son. And this is really Sadak Chhap comment in very bad taste. But to my mind, I think it's not enough that we focus on the sexist part of the comment. There's that. But there is general contempt for protest. It also displays contempt for the kind of response Congress politics is getting today. I think there's a smugness in the Congress. They don't understand this is not a passing phase. They think it's, you know, little storm in a teacup, and a few middle-class people who are not voters in any case who are getting upset, and after a few days of candle lighting, it will be businesses.
But Madhu, don't you think that it's not just whether it's the Congress which is not understanding what's going on the ground, because at the moment we're looking at the political attitude, the attitude of politicians to women in general. Let me take that to Nalini Singh.
No, I agree with you that it cuts across.
Whether it's Congress, BJP,
right
any
now,
party.
See, the point is when you are in a position of power and you're in government, then there's a different kind of behavior expected of you.
I just want to understand from you, Nalini, you know, A lot is often talked about the comments which were made by the JDU leader Sharad Yadav in Parliament when speaking in a debate on women's issues. He said those women who are looking for reservations are essentially balkati women, parkati women. You know, now you could perhaps say that Sharad Yadav is someone who belongs to Bihar, maybe not well bred with the so-called elitist versions of education, but here you have someone like the president's son, happens to be a banker, well-educated, urban. When he also resorts to statements like these, what does it show about the attitude of Indian male to women per se, Nalini?
Bhupen, first of all, my apologies for being a bit painted and dented just now. I've just been at a public function. But to your question, I would say that I am not at all surprised at Mr. Abhijit Mukherjee's comment, because this society is deeply feudal, is deeply medieval. Here, at the ruling class is the first class. The men are second class, and women and children are actually the bottom layer, the cattle class. So if he is talking about this, he is also talking as a politician, and politicians actually are, they are displaying two characteristics. One of them is an absolutely astonishing arrogance, and the second one is equally astonishing disconnect. So these are people, we have had people in the New Delhi area, children, post-liberalization children, they're on the streets in this cold. And we don't have Mr. Ajay Makan, Member of Parliament of this area, coming along and stepping along, because they say we don't want to politicize.
You know, Nalini, let me interrupt you, because the problem
is that Anubha or is that Suhasini? I'm sorry, I can't see you.
That's okay, that's Anubha here, but the problem here also is the timing. You know, this was a particular time when security was women was center stage, when we were looking at perhaps pushing for legislation that was going to make the anti-rape laws stringent and more strict, and at this point in time, this particular comment has actually overshadowed all of that. Today, here we are discussing Abhijit Mukherjee, not the gang rape survivor, not the amendments that should be made to the law.
You know, but it is not at all surprising. Look what overshadowed it yesterday. The bizarre and equally, intriguing spat between the Chief Minister and the Commissioner of Police. So what we are witnessing today is a political class and an administration which the children think has betrayed them. The administration has betrayed them. They're also talking about the indifference of the administration. An administration which is reacting with what are the standard operating procedures when a flash mob comes along.
Right.
Now, basically, what is really happening is that at the moment, everybody is running for cover or running on some little hilltop so that they can pontificate from there. But the actual, the reality is what Bhupen started with. A 17-year-old girl has committed suicide in Patiala last night. She was raped on Diwali night by 3 men. The police did nothing at all.
Right.
And they kept calling her to the police station, and she said that mujhe nanga karte hain bar bar, that they ask her such embarrassing questions. Finally, she committed suicide. So, this is the reality.
Right.
This is the reality of our society.
Let me take that then to the top. Let me take that then to the administration, because you're raising very, very important points, Nalini, about how the administration also deals with issues which are related to crime against women. T.R. Kakkar, former Police Commissioner of Delhi. Mr. Kakkar, would you also not agree, sir, that somewhere the police needs to take responsibility? How you all deal with women who come to a police thana to lodge a simple complaint against harassment? Forget rape. I'm saying even if a woman goes to a police station just to lodge a simple complaint against harassment, is it not true that policemen's first response is, "Arey, what will you gain? Why do you want to make a big tamasha about it? Go back to your residence." Or you'll try and put the blame on the woman herself, that you are to be held responsible maybe because of how you dressed up or how you speak, how you look. How does the police fit into the scheme of things, sir, when we're trying to understand the attitude of Indian male towards women?
Police is a very small part in the entire system that we have of the social system. It is no denying that the police needs to be more sensitized towards the women and their plight. We need to improve the judicial system. We need to improve our prosecution system. But the most important is how the political leaders and our social leaders
Fake Life 3, just that, huh? Fake Life.
sort out this problem within the society. After all, it is the society as a whole. We saw this, you just now discussing a case where a very well-informed individual made some statement, and we all take it that he made such statement because men view women in that fashion only.
Sure.
Now, this change has to be brought about. This change has to be brought, and police alone cannot bring about this change.
Okay.
Police definitely can make some improvement.
Fine, Mr. Kakkar, I think we get the sense.
We have to tell our children that when a woman says no, she means no.
Right, and that change perhaps needs to start with the family first. Madhu, I know we are focusing on the men, but I don't think women can be given a clean chit, because political discourse, even when it comes to women chief ministers and matters related to security of women, has been extremely misogynistic.
But I think I would personally also like to congratulate men. If you look at the anti-rape protests from day one, and this is not the first time this has happened. Yeah. There are more men there braving lathis, braving the cold, braving arrests, and doing also the organizational nitty-gritty legwork, footwork. There are more men there even today. I was there at Zakir Hussain Marg, and I think we're constantly picking some bad elements. A lot of men have bad attitudes, but I think there are plenty in Indian society who spontaneously come. Nobody went and begged them. So nobody had to remind. It's more than half full. I think very few societies can boast of such a spontaneous, heartfelt reaction from men.
I think also perhaps it's a brutality. Maybe it's a brutality of the crime.
The point is the lumpenization, brutalization, criminalization of Indian society is a serious menace. And it's a menace as much as it is for men as it is for women. What we're trying to do is making, it's as though women live in a separate compartment, in a separate planet, and they alone are endangered. The fact of the matter is the man who was with her was equally brutalized. It's not as if they said, thank you, brother, you get out and we will handle her. Right. They didn't do that. Right. He fought for her. Then they brutalized him. They didn't spare him. Today, at least 60-70% of protesters in any of these events have been men. I don't know why we keep doing this flagellation, which goes beyond our limits. I think the important thing that, though, what struck me even today was one of the slogans, which is, Sarkar humse darti hai, police aage karti hai. Now, that tells you, and accompanying this was a chorus of mistrust that why was this girl taken to Singapore? There has to be some mischief. That worries me, because to my mind, that's one of the good things the government did.
You made an important point about...
Even that is mistrusted, the level of mistrust of the government's machinery. And then the kind of spat that took place yesterday between the chief minister.
I'll come to that spat in a moment. I'll come to that spat in a moment, because since you were talking about the fact that how a large number of men have also come out on the streets. A short while back, I also spoke to Rahul Ishwar, who happens to be a representative from the Sabrimala temple, and I asked him if, according to him, the comments which were made by Abhijit Mukherjee, were they in some way symptomatic of a larger malaise which exists within our system, within our society? Does he believe that women also perhaps need to be more aware of where they're going, how they're dressing up? Does he agree or does he not agree with the sense that was given by Abhijit Mukherjee? Let's just listen to him first.
It is not only a problem of lawlessness, it is also a problem of how male and female mind differs, how male psychology and female psychology differs. There are a lot of established studies on this aspect, but as I'm sad to say, our feminist groups are blind towards this. Our feminist groups are only looking at the bad parts of men. Of course, they need to be punished, they need to be reformed, they need to be educated. But having said that, some kind of a responsible behavior in dressing. And one more thing I'd like to point out, there was earlier a case of a small girl being harassed like this, and what was she doing? She was with 4 men having alcohol in a car. What was she doing there? And all the perpetrators of the crime against her should be punished.
So therefore, Rahul, you're effectively saying that women need to be careful of what they're doing. So if a crime is committed against a woman, according to you, perhaps the woman should also be held responsible for the fact that that crime has been committed against her. Is that the sense that you're conveying?
To be honest, that's a very fair point. I would say growing assertiveness of women is really good. We really respect women. We want them to come forward. We believe there are Shakti. I always say we don't believe in male-female equality because we believe females are higher, women are higher. But having said that, the men should also be sensitized, trained, because we have changed from a totally patriarchal society to we are evolving into a new system. So there should be strict value education, ethical education, respect for women. These should be inculcated in our education system for men. And regarding women, please don't misunderstand it as a limitation to you. Please don't misunderstand it as creating some block for you. But some responsible behavior from your part should also be there.
Madhu, explain to me. You know, here is Rahul who says there has to be responsible behavior. So if a woman is raped in a car, that woman also needs to be aware of why she has gone to the car. How do you deal with issues like these?
I'm going to give you an answer which is not a yes-no, okay? As someone who's been in this women's movement for over 30 years now, I find it rather ironical that when we started off, it's feminist groups who were constantly protesting against a certain kind of portrayal of women as sex objects. And then they would go painting, you know, hoardings, cinema hoardings and ads wherever women were portrayed in those very sexy outfits and as sex objects. Today, the pendulum has swung 180 degrees, saying we have the right to be provocative sex objects. What I'm trying to say is this needs calm, cool debate. And this whole issue of dress code, we tend to oversimplify it. The point that I'm trying to make is there are concerns, multiple levels of concerns. And instead of polarizing the debate, we should revisit. Why did we start at a particular point? Where are we today? And what does it mean to be a sex object or not a sex object?
Fair enough.
I mean, flaunting it. Like, for example, at one time, prostitution was a no-no. And women marched the streets saying, ban it. And today please treat it as good a profession as any other. But we need to explain, are we just emulating blindly? Is that what we're doing?
Okay, so you're saying it's a complex
echoing feminist movements there, whatever they say at that point, we start echoing. Or are we responding to our own predicament and situation?
And our own changing society. Okay, so it's a complex debate. Ranjana Kumari, I think we finally have you online. Let me take a mix of all of this to what Rahul Ishwar said of the Sabrimala, that women have a role to play as well. What Madhu Kishwar is trying to say, that at one point in time, we were fighting against nudity and perhaps showing off our bodies. Today we believe it's a right. We believe that's how we should dress up. It's a complex issue, and the changing of mindsets perhaps can't be left to the police, and is obviously not going to happen in the parliament if you simply bring about an amendment to the rape law. It's much, much more.
Well, I think if we are mixing the issue about the statements made by Mr. Mukherjee is, you know, in both the parts of his statement, one, of course, trying to say that the women who participating are the women who are just, you know, people who have no connect with the people, and they are women who come from, I think, some other planet or something. And this was very sexist in nature. It was very insulting remark. And on the other content of his statement was about, you know, women are just the people, the protesters are doing pink protest or some kind of a statement that he gave, ridiculing the whole effort, which is so spontaneous, which has come first time ever. Men, women together, young boys and girls have marched on the street against all forms of sexual offense. I think that seriousness, instead of welcoming it, joining it, responsibly responding to it, he just tried to ridicule it, which is absolutely unacceptable, and we have made a very strong statement. Now to talk about this whole statement of Rahul, I think I'm really shocked to hear that, you know, when this girl, let him explain this to the audience who's listening today, that what kind of a protection should this girl have really done? She was at the heart of the nation capital. She was in the heart of the nation's capital, Munirka. She was at 9:30 in the evening. She was with a man, and she gets into the bus. What kind of a...
No, Ranjana, I must correct you. I must correct you.
We must correct you.
He was not talking about this incident.
We blame the victim.
He was not talking about this incident, Ranjana.
We should not buy in this
he was talking about another incident. He was talking about another incident. But Nalini Singh, I want to go back. I want to make a different point to you. Since we're trying to understand perceptions here, why are these prejudices so deeply embedded in us? Tell me about the role of the media itself, Nalini. Look around us. Look around on all entertainment channels. You know, the kind of serials where the depiction of women. Look at Bollywood. I mean, you have a Munni Badnaam Hui, some Fevicol. It ultimately, does it not end up creating perceptions on young minds about how to look at woman? Is a woman a simple commodity today? Is that the depiction through the media, Nalini?
Bhupen, I think the media is actually manifesting what is actually happening. I would say that, just going back to Rahul for a minute, Kerala has distinguished itself in the last 4 weeks or 6 weeks with fathers raping 6-year-old girls, 9-year-old girls, and then serving them to their friends. So I think that also needs to be explained. But I would say when you are talking about the media, actually, we used to have the family and religion as two institutions from which values emanated. Today, these are weakening, whichever religion and in families. Therefore, what is really happening is that when you see the children out on the streets, there is now a much wider mobilization. And people are actually mobilizing all across the country for a rape that has taken place, a brutal rape that has taken place in Delhi.
Right.
And this is what we are not able to handle. I think that the people who are not in government will be able to handle it. The people who are not politicians will be able to handle it because of the, maybe a little bit more connected. But actually, when you're talking of the media, look at the stories. I don't want to media bash, but look at the stories, the film stories. Eve teasing, followed by stalking of a girl, followed by Badtamizi, these lurid dialogues.
Right.
And then the hero gets the girl. He gets the girl. So now when you have what is happening, what is called the political economy of the country changing, and you've got in our mega cities, also rural areas, there's a huge amount of, influx of people.
Okay.
They're actually coming
Madhu, you want to make a quick point?
Yeah, I want to go back to this.
Just hold on for a second, Nalini.
They're all ready to go at Rahul. Now, the fact of the matter is, in 1985-86, it was feminist groups which led a campaign when it was UN Year of the Media to get a law passed, a very draconian law passed, called Act Against Indecent Portrayal of Women, 1986, I think. I was the sole voice at that time saying, you are inviting censorship. It's a very draconian law. It's badly defined. Anything that evokes prurient interest is how you define obscenity. Now, the very same people pretend as if it never happened, they didn't do it. And if some groups, BJP type group of women, stand up today and invoke that law, they say, oh, this is Hindutvavadi, this is conservative, this is, you're disowning your own actions.
Right.
Not reviewing, not saying we made a mistake. Why did we then want this? And today, why have we suddenly gone full circle and we are calling everybody else who wants to use the law that feminists invited? I was the lone voice. You
okay, I want to go back to Mr. Kakkad and let you have the final word.
Bias harangues against everybody.
Sir, you're hearing the view which is being expressed by all our panelists here. But I still want to understand. Can we really fix this perceptional problem? What do you think can be done? Education in schools, more emphasis in family values. What should be done according to Mr. Kakkad?
Bhumik, I appreciate all the sentiments that are being expressed. But the question is, you have to find out a remedy so that in future we consider, we are
What's the
more
one
safe
remedy, Mr. Kakkad?
in all these
What's
matters.
the one remedy?
The one remedy is that you have to...
No, but it's on the streets.
There is no one remedy.
Thousands of men
there is no one remedy.
With us.
You have to sensitize your children in schools and colleges. The political leaders, the social leaders have to take up this issue and sensitize practically the entire society.
Okay, so the mindset needs to change from the family, Mr. Kakkad.
Okay.
Okay,
but how to go ahead in the mindset? I think this is, we have heard enough of this bhashan, but I can tell you The family in India is a place where maximum violence happens on women. Every third woman has reported violence, and this violence then starts getting spilled out, and it reflects in the society. You know, Gandhiji had said that if there is a violent family in a society, society will turn into a violent society, and this is what we are seeing. So what are we talking about? Violence against women.
Let's all of us not talk together.
What kind of a family?
Let's all of us not talk together. I think your point is well taken, Ranjana. I think, Ranjana ji, you also made an important point that ultimately at the end of the day, there are a lot of cases of violence which are also being expressed in the family system. But then Madhu Krishna was also right when she said there are a large number of men who are coming out, and hopefully that should instill some kind of hope that maybe this perceptual crisis that we're talking about, these prejudices that we're referring to against women, maybe those prejudices can really be dealt with. Let me thank all our panelists today for joining us on this debate. I don't know what one should be saying really, Anubha. You know, as a man, sometimes you're completely out of words when you have to deal with such issues as to the attitude of men, frankly, towards women, even in today's times, in 21st century, sometimes really baffles me.
Okay, the cultural attitudes, they certainly aren't going to change overnight. But here's a story from Punjab.